Hello from Blue Collar Bobbers. It's July 2016 and it's 100 degrees outside, so now is a perfect time to convert this little Suzuki TU250X into an awesome little cafe racer. Okay, before we get started, I just wanted to point this out. If you have one of these little chairs like this, little mechanic's chair, it'll make it so much more fun to do this. It's just fun to kind of roll around on the bike while you're sitting down. So let's get started. There's just a couple of things I wanted to go over with you first. Mainly for safety, let's go ahead and tie our kickstand. The reason we do that is when you're wrenching on this bike, if you accidentally push the bike forward, it could come off the kickstand and fall. So, man, you just don't want to do that. It could hurt yourself and hurt your bike. So what I've done is I've just wrapped the rope around the front of the frame there. Then I've come down. It's not tied to the shifter there, it looks like it. And then it's tied around the bottom of the kickstand like that. There's that peg that sticks out, so it's a perfect place. Just go ahead and tie that and get it as tight as you can, because like I say, you don't want this thing tipping over. And then one other thing I wanted to go over with you before we get started here is there's two bolts right here on the back of the bike. They're right here. They're Allen bolts. You'll need a 10mm Allen wrench for that. So you can either use this type, which goes on a socket, or you can use just a standard Allen wrench like this. Either way, you'll have to put a lot of leverage on this, so you may want to get a little cheetah bar if you use this style. So I just thought I'd point that out, and you don't want to have to stop, you know, and wait. So you grab a 10mm Allen wrench, and then let's get going. The first item we want to remove is this seat. It's real simple. There's just a bolt on each side, so go ahead and pop those out, and then the seat just comes right off. To remove the passenger seat, you just remove this screw right here, and then there's two around the front here. Remove those two, and then the seat lifts right off. We want to disconnect these connectors right here. We've got the white one and the two black ones. So the white one, you just push that little tab right there, and that comes right out like that. And then on the black ones, you just lift the little tab right here with your fingernail, and then they come apart. So do that to both of those, and then we'll continue. Let's go ahead and snip the wire ties that were around this area right here, and there's one here and one here. Just snip those off. And then take this rubber grommet that was around this connector here and take that out and push that connector down through that hole. Let's remove both signal lights on the back. The way you do that is just take this screw out right here, and then you can feed the wire through the frame there like that, and take that signal light out. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay, this next step is going to be a little bit tricky, but you can do it. What we're going to do is we're going to remove the two screws on the bottom side of the fender on this. What I did, I went ahead and put a little oil on these. That way they'll come out a lot easier. Because they've used red Loctite on those, they're going to be a little bit tight. Now, I'm going to show you the underside of the fender so you can understand what's going on here. This is the underside of the fender where the screws are. Now if you'll notice, this is that connector that we shoved through that hole. So it's a lot easier if you can get this wire out of the way. So what it is, there's just a little clip that's around that bolt. You can just pull that off like that. Just, you know, pull that off so you can get rid of that wire. And then on the same thing on this, there's just a little clip here that's, let me zoom in here on this a little bit. There's just that little clip that holds that wire, and you can kind of bend it out of the way and then pull the wire out. It'll just make it a lot easier to get these screws out if you can get rid of the wires in here, so you can get a wrench in the area where the screws are. Okay, the screw on this side toward us, you can get that with the long extension. So I can do that. We can loosen it up. Now, this side's going to be a little different. I'm going to use a box end wrench on that side. Oh, I forgot to tell you too, these are 12mm screws, so you get a 12mm box end wrench, or you may even get just a short socket in there. So you may have to reach under here, and you can probably get that out. It's going to be a little bit of a pain, but you can get it out of there. So let's get these two bolts out of that bike. Okay, it's going to take some muscle to get these Allen screws out. So what I do is I put the Allen wrench straight out like this, and then I can push on it. And it's a lot easier if you push rather than pull, and then you're less apt to rock the bike too. So go ahead and remove the one on the other side, and then loosen this one, and then I'll show you how to take this off. We don't want to let this fender drop down because there's a rectifier up front that we need to watch. So follow the next step. Okay, put your hand under the fender and loosen this. Okay, just set the fender on the tire like that, and then we'll show you how to get that rectifier out of there. Okay, I'm going to use a flashlight to show you how this works down in here. So this is the rectifier here, and then there's a hole right in here, and this little peg right here, this one right here, that little peg was in that hole. So what I did, I just stuck a screwdriver down and I pried that little peg out of that hole. It's just a little keeper that holds that cable close to the fender. So pry that little keeper out, and then we'll show you how to take the rectifier off the fender. I'm going to spray a little Windex on the on those two prongs there, and then just go ahead and pry that out of there, the rectifier. It just comes out just like that. Okay, once you get that loose, then you should be able to slide the fender out of the area where it's located. For reference, we're going to use this bracket and that wire, so whatever you do, don't discard the fender yet. One last thing and we'll have this bike ready to put back together. Okay, so what you want to do is remove this screw and then this whole unit just comes right off. Okay, unless you plan to paint your tank and fenders and side cover, we can go ahead and start putting this bike back together. If you do plan on painting, then stay tuned and I'll show you how to take the tank and all the side covers and stuff off the bike.